Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are with the Game Engineer, and today I have something very exciting. Christmas came early for me, and my good friends over in Ukraine were able to get me uh, an early delivery of this little bad boy. So, this is Gwent. For those of you who do not know what Gwent is, it is a um, kind of military combat card game that is originated in The Witcher 3, the board game or the video game. And it is one of my favorite card games to play. It is incredibly simple to play, and it's just a ton of fun. So, without further ado, why don't we crack this bad boy open? So I can give you a little more history from the game itself. So in The Witcher, uh, there's actually quite a few quests in the game that rely on you playing Gwent, and it's something that is also just super fun to play. I would find myself playing the game just to actually play Gwent, um, and especially if you find an NPC that's really good at it, playing at them for quite a bit of time can be really entertaining. Um, so Gwent was in game. They subsequently did make also a standalone app on iOS and I believe Android. And then in some of the collector's editions of the expansions for Witcher 3, they released actual decks. I've got some examples of those here. So this is from the Nilfgaard deck. Um, so these are French tarot sized cards. So they're a little bit wonky compared to like a standard card size for like trading cards or something. Um, but phenomenal game. There were 4 decks released. So I think the Northern Realms, the Squatel, the Nilfgaard, and the Monster deck. And those were physically released first party by CD Projekt Red. And subsequently, what I'm reviewing today is by a company in Ukraine that has sort of rebalanced the game a little bit because the in game card game is somewhat stacked in your favor. They kind of rebalance some of the cards and abilities and leaders as part of the game, and actually released 10 decks. So a number of different factions from the game had sort of decks created by this company. And so I was not expecting this for at least another month. So I'm very excited that it's here. So yeah, getting the box open, we see uh, there is a coin here. It's got I don't remember if that's Radovid or if that's Full Test, but one of the kind of kings of the realms. Um, so yeah, it's very nice. It's metal. Certainly, probably I don't know, could be gold plated or maybe just brass plated. There's some counters. These are intended to be, I think, point counters because the sometimes depending on the cards that you play, your points can go over 100 per round. And then here we see it's actually a play mat. So let me unfold it a little bit, see if I can show you. So this is a play mat. It's got a spot for your leader card over here. Oh, you guys can't see that. Your leader card here. This is maybe specials that are in play, I believe. Or it could be the discard pile. And then you can see, this is where your library is. This is either specials or discard. Let's see. Oh, here's discard. Or no. What do we have here? Oh, these are areas for special cards to sit. So some of the special cards allow you to eliminate points counted on a certain battle line. And so the way that this game works is that there are sort of battle regiments. There is, and it's hard to show this because it's actually quite large. There's melee, this right here. There's ranged combat and then siege combat. And so cards will fit into one of these three tiers or in the special categories over here on the side. And the game is somewhat unique in that you can have decks of varying size, so you can compose a deck. It does have to contain a minimum number of cards, and that is, I believe, 22 unit cards, up to 10 special cards, and the leader isn't really included in that. The leader is kind of off to the side, but so you should have, I believe, a minimum of 28 cards, but you can have an unlimited number. You can include all of your cards if you wanted. But the interesting thing about this game is that you start at least with only having 10 cards to last 3 rounds of play. And so there's a strategy of like when to kind of like really throw all your effort into it, or when to sort of, resign to fight another day. So it is a really fun strategic game to play, and really excited to have this. As I said, there are many more decks in this set. They all come with like a nice little bag. So this is, I believe, the Skellige set. So that's an island nation and towards the latter part of play in The Witcher 3. Sorry, spoilers. Um, so the Skellige Islands are very much Viking, Norse inspired kind of thing. And here you can see that, you have some beautiful art on each card, some beautiful symbols, and then the text that kind of explains the card somewhat. So let me get to a basic unit card so we can kind of go over what some of the things mean. So every Gwent card, of course, has, the faction that you're from. And then there should be a big symbol up here that either indicates a number or a symbol. So like here's one of each. And the ones with numbers are unit cards, and this is sort of their power level or the damage that they're applying in a given turn. Then there will be one or more well, actually there can sometimes be no additional symbols, but any symbols below that indicate some special ability that it brings to bear. And this particular symbol is telling us that it can, the locations it can be located in. So this is a mid-range or a ranged combat tier that this is played in. And then I haven't even read through the instructions here. So this is some symbol that's related to an ability that is activated typically when you play the card. So yeah, let's maybe take a look at a few other cards here. So I imagine that there are, this may be a leader option. So normally the leader is the same person, they just have different abilities, at least in the base game. And in this one, it looks like we may actually have different leader options. So yeah, they each have a passive ability, and they're a little bit different. So you can kind of play play them in different ways depending on your opponent's sort of style. But yeah, just looking through here. So Scorch, this is one that can, I think, knock out one tier of the battlefield. This looks like it's a range, although, well, I guess that's ranged or melee. And it has the ability that I believe it adds a +1. I'd have to double check. It's been a little while since I played the game. But here's Geralt of Rivia, and 12 damage, so he's a heavy hitter. Uh, so this is one card that was obviously modified from where it was in the original game, because I believe he's a 15. All right, I'll just kind of poke through some of these, and if something strikes my fancy, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So this Commander's Horn, I believe this. Oh, the ability changes here in the game. It's multiplying it by X, and or multiplying it by 2, and here it is adding +1 to morale, -1 to hearing. Well, I think it does the same thing. That's just some flavor text, I think, at the bottom. So I may have to look up what some of the things are, because they did add new mechanics to the game, and I may not know those off of hand. Decoy is a nice way to hold a spot on the battlefield, but you get to switch out the character at a later point. Yeah, so here's some siege weapons. The siege weapons tend to be higher value, and then the certain abilities are usually only available in a given tier. And some leaders have abilities that can really help mitigate the damage coming from a given tier. But yeah, I mean, it's a very simple game to play, but like strangely strategic for how simple it is. So yeah, this is just a quick little run through of the Skellige deck. So the other thing to note is that these are slightly different from the first party cards, in that you can see that they are just a little bit smaller, maybe I would say probably 1 or 2 millimeters thinner. The width, I think, is pretty close to the same. Definitely less than half a millimeter different, if it's different at all. And in terms of print quality, I will say that the first party cards they're a little clearer. You have to look at it a little more closely, but you can probably see it in the text. The text is just a little bit sharper. Clearly, I think this went through a higher end printing service. And then there are different choices in some of the text and fonts, but otherwise the quality of the punch out is maybe slightly lower on this one. I will comment on. It's really only noticeable if you're looking at the corners in the back. I don't know, it's difficult to tell, but it's just not quite as clean of a punch compared to those first party cards. In terms of the card stock, I would say they're pretty comparable. I don't know what the finish on these, if they'll hold up quite the same way. I believe, let me just slide out one of these cards. They do have a slightly different, I think, kind of top coat. And so I don't know if one will wear better than the other, but yeah. So that is the Skellige team, or Skellige faction. This one is actually, I'm not sure which one this one is. The symbol, is this Redonia? I think that was the name of the, yeah, Radovid. So I believe that's Redonia, one of the fictional countries in The Witcher. So similar, so each of the factions, the warriors and units included are from sort of that faction in the series. So it's kind of it's a card game, and it's also kind of almost contains all the lore of the game as well, which is sort of neat. Here's a little crib sheet on what some of these cards do. Yeah, so Commander's Horn doubles the strength of all the units in play. We have decoys, which swap a unit card on the battlefield and get to return it to your hand. Oh yeah, that one can be useful when you're trying to be strategic with, like, you overplayed a win and you want to like get a card back in your hand, and that kind of a strategy. And then we have execution, destroys the strongest unit on the battlefield. Royal Decree is an ability that lets you use your leader's ability. Otherwise, your leader's ability would be only used once per game. And then we have the Impenetrable Fog, Biting Frost, and Torrential Rain that respectively drops the value of the cards on a given tier to 1, which can make a pretty big difference. And then we have Clear Skies, which removes weather effects. So yeah, I won't go through maybe every single card here, but the Witcher cards definitely do have they've got a certain kind of darker fantasy theme than you might see in some other places. Here's another kind of explanation card. So we have Spies, which goes into your opponent's battlefield, but then you get to draw 2 cards. Witch Hunter, I think that must be a new one. So it says place on your battlefield, destroy the weakest card in the same opponent's row. If there are several weakest cards, choose the one to destroy. Okay. So a little bit different than the prior destruction ability where the strongest gets destroyed. We have Farewell Rose, place on your battlefield, then take the Caretaker card or Black Cat and Dog card from your deck and discard pile of any player. Play it instantly. Okay, so this is a way for you to play an additional card. Immortal, place on your battlefield. The card will stay on the battlefield for 2 rounds instead of 1, and it can't. Oh, interesting. So Immortal lets you play through rounds, so that's intriguing. I believe there was a leader ability that allowed you to do that in the first game, but we have Tight Bond. If 2 cards with the same name are placed, the original strength of both cards will be doubled. Yep. So that's commonly found in the close quarter combat tier. We have Companions, placed on the battlefield, all cards with the same name from your deck and hand. Wait, place on your battlefield and take all cards with the same name from your deck and hand. Play them instantly. Oh, interesting. Medic, place on your battlefield and choose 1 card from your discard pile. Play it instantly. Ah, excellent. So that lets you kind of pull out of your graveyard using kind of more magic terminology. Let's see. We'll just maybe quickly keep moving through some of these. So there's that Caretaker card they mention. Radovid. So that's a leader card. Royal Decree, that must be a special. That's a Redania, or not Redonia, Redania. And I must confess I have not had time to play through the entirety of the expansion, so some of these names may not be familiar. But I believe each faction has roughly 4 or 5 different leader cards that give you a little bit of strategic diversity, even within one within one faction. And then, of course, your choice of cards can totally change that as well. it tends to be a good idea in this game to choose fewer cards, because since you typically only get about 10 cards, maybe 14 or 16, if you have the appropriate cards in your hand, then it does make it in your favor to try to enrich it with the kind of the best cards, or the at least the best cards against your opponent's strategy. So this might be from one of the expansions. I think this is from I think it's Blood and Wine. So it's an expansion that takes place in a roughly kind of like a French, kind of French um, area. And so I have not played through. I've just barely started this one, so there will be a lot of names here I don't know, but the art looks good. So this one didn't have a physical version, so this is a completely um, new in terms of having a physical product. There was a Toussaint Gwent set in the game. So here we go. Faction perk. At the beginning of the game, you can change 4 cards instead of 2. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That gives you quite a bit more, double the flexibility of swapping out cards from your first draw. Long Night appears to be one of their new ones. Weather card affects 2 rows instead of 1. Pick the range with a difference of 3 or more. Okay. Then Wine looks like it's a new one for this. Place on the battlefield. Place on the battlefield and add +4 to all other units in this row. Okay. And then boost morale. Place on your battlefield and add +1 to all units in the row, excluding this card. So yeah, this, this, I think still looks good. It's maybe a slightly different quality than the official cards, which I think largely duplicate the art from the game, or actually have somewhat 3D rendered art from the game. Let me see if I have one that can show, for example. Yeah, I guess these ones aren't more of the rendered versions. Some of the cards do have more of like a 3D rendered look. So this is the monster deck. And we have, let's see, this is the Wild Hunt deck. This looks like the Northern Realms. That one is probably, is that the Scoia'tael? We got Nilfgaard. Let's see if this is the Scoia'tael. Yeah, looks like it is. Yep, that's Scoia'tael. And this one is a new one. This one might be from, so we had Blood and Wine and then Heart of Stone. So this might be the faction from Heart of Stone. It's kind of what it looks like to me. Vesemir. Oh, this is the Witchers, I think. So this is a Witcher deck. Ah, interesting. That's kind of cool. I don't recall there being a Witcher deck in the original, in the digital game. So that's a new ad. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm super excited to play this with some of my friends. It comes with a little explanation sheet of how to set up the game. pretty easy. Take your deck, make sure you have one leader chosen, get your at least, I think 28 cards up to however many cards you want, at least 22 units, at most 10 special cards, but at least 10 special cards, or at least 6 special cards. And yeah, then at the beginning of the game, you draw 10 cards. You have the ability to swap 2 of them out, possibly more if you have the right leader. And then you start playing. You each play or pass. Passing ends your turn, but it does not end the round, so the opponent can still continue to play more cards. When you choose to end a battle, essentially, or a round, is part of the strategy in winning, because you need to win 2, and they need not be 2 in a row, just 2 out of 3. Well, just two games. So if you win the first round and you win the second round, then you win the game total. All right. And you can also draw, which is a loss for both of you. So it does help to sort of decisively win, which is honestly not super difficult, though with this more balanced set, it seems like it'll play a little more fair, because the Northern Realm set in the game is pretty overpowered, compared to some of the other ones. All right. Yeah, the one thing that may be a little more difficult here is that the scoring, although it's not particularly difficult, in the game, is sort of automatically done for you, whereas you will need to take a little more care to add some of it. And there's a little bit of nuance to remember on, the morale. Special ability will add +1 to all the units on a row, but not the one that you played it with. So there's sort of like a +1 to all cards, but then not to one card that you need to remember. And but the rest of them, like the Commander's Horn, is just multiply by 2. That one's pretty easy. And then I guess the weather cards will typically affect one particular tier of the battlefield, and for both players. So there will be recalculating whenever weather is either added or removed from the board, which, depending on the cards that are being played, could be actually several times over the course of the 3 rounds. Though the scoring is per round, so there shouldn't be too much carryover. Although some units can be carried over to the next round, but I mean, you rescore them in that round, so they're usually not a difficult thing. All right, so that's sort of my mini review here. Like I said, the cards are good quality. I mean, they look great, with a few minor differences, just a smidge lower in quality compared to the first party set, but otherwise, like, I mean, once you put them inside a sleeve or something, you won't be able to tell a lick of difference between the two. One thing you should be careful of is that I believe the art is identical on the sets that physically do exist. So make sure not to mix them up, because these sets have been rebalanced in different ways. So it should be easy to tell, because they are slightly different in size. So hopefully they don't wobble around too much. Well, yeah, let me try real quick. So you can see on here, there's maybe a millimeter of clearance on each side, so it's not quite a perfect fit. Whereas these ones could maybe sort of move a little bit more, but I think once it's in there, it's not too bad. It is, it's like a noticeable amount of additional wiggle in there, but not too bad. And unfortunately, French tarot in terms of card sleeve size is already a little bit odd, and so there aren't a ton of vendors that make it. Um, it's already a weird size, so I'm not sure you'll find a better fitting card than the standard French tarot size. But maybe I believe the ones that I have are the gray cards from Sleeve Kings, which I want to say were like 65 by 112. Um, so yeah, if anybody has any questions or you want to have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them. I can well, actually I could just measure these out right now for you. So it looks like the width is, yeah, just shy of 60 centimeters or 60 millimeters. So they're coming in at about 59, it looks like. And then in terms of length, we're looking at about 111. So about 111 millimeters. So 59 by 111. So just a skosh, one or 2 millimeters in each direction, smaller than the original cards. So yeah, that probably covers the basic review. Might do a more complex review in the future when I have had a little more time to play with them. These did just roll in, so I'm like pretty pumped to get a chance to play with them. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you later.